Welcome to the Encouragement Zone with Bishop T. Davis Jr. where your dreams are revived.
Well, good day, everyone. We have an exciting broadcast today. We're going to get some great information. We have two special guests. When we come back, they'll be seated up here, and I'll be out letting you listen to them. But we have the mayor of Cortland, Alabama, Ms. Linda Peebles, and the director of the Singing River Trail, John Kvach. They're going to give us some information that we really need. If you are living on the Tennessee River area, anywhere in the Tennessee Valley, call a friend, tell them to tune in. They need to hear what's going on. We're going to get information about the Singing River Trail. That's right, Singing River Trail. It is going to bless you. Just tune in, get your cup of coffee. If it's in the morning, in the evening, get your cup of tea, whatever it is, and sit back and enjoy. We can take a break. When we come back, we're going to receive some great information. This is the Encouragement Zone with Bishop T. Davis Jr. Be blessed.
I encourage you to get the book. This book, Gratitude, is a great book. You can get it on Amazon.com, or you can go to DocRockLeadership.com and get this amazing book. You will not be disappointed. And hey, get the book. I'm Doc Rock. You join me at the top. Get a Gratitude. It's going to change your life. Gratitude.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Linda Peebles. I'm the mayor of Cortland, Alabama. And here with me today is the executive director of the Singing River Trail, John Kvach. And we're going to talk to you a little bit about Cortland, Alabama. And we're also going to talk to you a lot about the Singing River Trail. So, a little bit about Cortland is we're very proud of our town. We are a small, historic southern town in North Alabama that sits approximately middle ways between Decatur, Alabama and the Shoals. We were incorporated on December the 13th, 1819, and we're very proud of that because Alabama, the state, did not become a state until December the 14th of 1819. So we're actually approximately one day or at least a few hours older than the great state of Alabama. Cortland is, in the past, was a very productive and financially stable small town. And we have over 100 buildings and homes on the historic register. That I own one of those buildings, which is the old Tennessee Valley Bank building. It was built in 1899. I purchased it in 1999 and turned it into a small shop and also a living quarters with a studio apartment above it. What's so unique about most of the homes and buildings in Cortland is that they've had so few owners over the years that most of them are 90% architecturally intact because like the building I bought was built in 1899 and I'm only the third owner of that building. But a little bit something else about it is, like all small towns, when they do a bypass, you have the main source of traffic and income that usually go through that town to no longer exist. So in late 80s, when the town of Cortland had a bypass built, a lot of the downtown areas died down. And so when I bought my building in 1999, I had the impression that I was going to already do a small business and things there. So since the early 2000s, I have been looking for a way to bring the economy back, bring the traffic back to Cortland. And the way of doing that, I heard about a event or something that was possibly coming through North Alabama about 2 years ago. And when I heard about that, I thought, yes, that's the way I'm going to get people back to North Alabama, plus to Cortland, Alabama. And that was called the Singing River Trail. And So I kept looking for events about the Singing River Trail, and just so happened that I found out that the director was getting ready to do a presentation for the town of Huntsville. And so when he was going to be at an event on a certain night, so I just drove over to Huntsville and introduced myself to John Kvach, and the rest of it is history. John?
Literally. So my name is Dr. John Kvach, and I'm the executive director of the Singing River Trail. And as Linda said, I was lucky enough to have her come to me, which doesn't usually happen. But we had a great first meeting, and from my perspective, I want to give you a little bit of a background on where we were and how we became to become partners and stakeholders together. It was 2 years ago, August of 2020, in the middle of COVID. I was offered the job of being the director of the Singing River Trail, which at the time was a 3-county, 70-mile project that primarily tied Huntsville, Madison, Decatur, and Athens together. Mm-hmm. And for me, I was given the task of building a greenway. And you may ask yourself, what is a greenway? Think of it as a human highway, usually 10 to 12 feet wide, and it's for pedestrians, bicyclists, in rural areas. It could be for horses. It's going to be ADA compliant, so wheelchairs, strollers, you name it. But it's going to be a thing where people can go out and ride a bike or go walk in the countryside or in small towns and connect it across North Alabama. So when I took the job, it was 3 counties and it was 70 miles. And about 3 months into the job, I realized that we hadn't really done what we could do. So I started reaching out to mayors, and mayors started reaching out to me. And before we knew it, we have an 8-county trail system that's being worked on across North Alabama, from Bridgeport, Alabama, which is in the far northeast part of Jackson County, all the way over to the Shoals, Colbert County, and Lauderdale County. And what we want to do is tie all of those counties and all of those cities and towns and all of those people together with this trail that people would want to use if they lived here, as health and wellness, as recreation. But we also want people to start coming to North Alabama and seeing what we have. And so think of the fact that if we had this trail today, you could hop on your bike in Scottsboro and ride over to Cortland or the Shoals over a course of a couple days or a week, and really get to see the people and the places and nature and all these things that make who we are, really start showing them off. So that's kind of the backstory of where I came from. But the event that Linda came to, she immediately came up to me and said, "Oh my gosh, I'm from Cortland, Alabama. I'm the mayor, and I want this so badly." And I said, "You're already on my radar. I can't get to everyone, but I'm there." And from that day on, it's been a great partnership, a great opportunity to work with Cortland. And I'll tell you this. So my background is, I'm actually a Southern historian. I taught Southern history and Civil War Reconstruction at the University of Alabama in Huntsville, at the University of Tennessee. And so my background is Southern history. And what I love about North Alabama is you can start up in, say, Scottsboro or Stevenson or Bridgeport, and you're kind of in the Appalachian Mountains, and it has a completely different feel. Then you get to Huntsville and Decatur and Athens, and things are kind of changing from rural to urban and small city to big city. And then you get to Cortland, you get to Town Creek, and you get to Leeton, and it's like going back in the time and having the best of what kind of small town rural North Alabama can be. And for me, especially, Cortland has always been a favorite of mine because of the square. It's just such a classic Southern square, right on the railroad, historic buildings preserved. And I think so much opportunity to begin to connect it to other things. And I'll let Linda speak more on her own town, but I'll tell you from an outsider's perspective, I see nothing but how do we make this, let's get going. Let's find some things that make people want to be here, and that could be everything from the Singing River Trail to a brand new restaurant, and then let's connect it to Decatur on one side, and let's connect it to Town Creek and Leeton on the other side, and let's see what happens. And so for me, this is just an opportunity to be able to kind of talk a little bit about the Singing River Trail, but also talk about Cortland, Because I think sometimes when an outsider comes in and sees it with fresh eyes, it's easier for me to go, holy cow, look what you got here. And for a lot of old timers that have been there forever, they've stopped seeing it for a long time. So that's kind of the long story of how we got to Cortland and why we are in Cortland.
Thank you. That's what so many people, like you just said, the people that's lived there forever, they do not realize what they have, and an outsider coming in and seeing this and going, oh my gosh, this is just like being in Mayberry. This is just like a Hallmark movie, and we've got so many people wanting to come to town. We've got new businesses opening up, and the thing about it is we've got properties that are for sale now that's never been sold before, that are 3 or 4 generations that have always been the same families. And so people from out of state are buying properties. People from the other counties are buying properties, and we've got new design businesses opening up, insurances, restaurants, and what we need. And the Singing River Trail is our way of bringing more people, because at one time, in order to get through Lawrence County, you had to come through Cortland. And if you was coming from the Shoals area going to Decatur, you were on 020, which was Jefferson Street now. And then, like I said, the bypass changed that. But this is our way of bringing people back to Cortland and letting them see what we do have, the treasures we have here, and working with the other people in the county. Like I said, we've got the rivers, we've got the mountains, and Cortland's in the valley itself, and we're just so proud of everything that we've got there, and we want to share it with other people. We want them to come in and see, exactly what we see here and what John saw when he come to Cortland. And that's one thing, that just amazes some people, is how intact the buildings and everything are, and it's just sitting there, and you got nearly 200 years of different architectural aspects of buildings and structures. And I'm just looking forward to bringing people back and letting them see what we do have. And John, actually, like, your first impression of Cortland, what was it?
For me, it was just you turn off the bypass and you turn into town, and you go by the town park, and you start coming through Jefferson, and you immediately begin to see, like, wow. All right, these homes are a little different. These aren't just homes that were thrown up last 20 years in a cornfield or a cotton field. Is that you immediately begin to feel the history, and then you turn into downtown, the commercial district. And again, it's just one of those things where each town has its own feel, and Cortland's is such a strong feeling of a sense of community. Recently, Lockheed Martin in the town of Cortland put a mural up to the future, and I'll let her talk more about that. But what I'd say is most towns are looking towards the past, and that's a great thing. I'm a historian, so I approve of that. But Cortland's first real public art was something about the future, and just I think that's a great symbol of what they're trying to do. Is we want to maintain the best of who we were, and become better than better than our past in some ways. And I think that's what it. When I saw the square with an old bandstand, there's a checkerboard right there. It just, Linda said it feels like Mayberry in a lot of ways, in a very positive way. It's like you don't feel like an outsider in Cortland.
And that's true. Very seldom do we ever people come to town and feel like that that they're not part of it. We have different events throughout the year, and a while back we had some people that was just driving through town. We was having an event, and they pulled over and they said, what's going on? What are you doing? We told them, we're grilling hamburgers and hot dogs. We're having a book signing, and just come and join us, And they're like, we can just, join you now. We don't have tickets. And I said, you don't need a ticket. All you need to do is come to Cortland. Enjoy what we've got. Most of us, the different activities we have is free to the public, and that's another way of bringing people back to town, to letting them know what we have. And it's just amazing that how friendly, the town itself is, and how people feel like they're at home when they first get there. So
it's the truth. And I can say this from my perspective, but now that I've been there a whole lot, because I do travel, I don't have an office. I let my car be my office. Is I get to see a lot of different towns, and I kept talking about different towns. And one thing that excites me is that the town of Cortland, the town of Town Creek, and the town of Leeton have kind of banded together, and the three mayors, so Linda, Mike Parker, and Derek Silcox, so that would be Town Creek and Leeton's mayors, they see the value of working together. And what I love is that Linda went over to Cortland, went over to Leeton to visit their mayor and their downtown, and then eventually came over for Sledge Fest.
Right.
And then Mayor Silcox from Leeton came over to Cortland's 4th of July celebration. Yes. And that working together, I think that's what excites me most. Is we jokingly call ourselves the Tri-Towns, TRY, and now it's less of a joke. We started off laughing about it, but TRY, trying, the Tri-Towns next to the Quad Cities is where it started. But now we're working together as a kind of this pact of three towns that just want to be better and connect each other to each other. And that's the part that I think also excites me, is seeing three leaders who understand that apart, their small towns can't necessarily do everything, but together their three towns can do a whole lot together. And that's the other part that excites me, because you have this classic square in Cortland, and then you have this kind of this, in Town Creek, you have this kind of this main street that takes you to the Tennessee River, and then you get to Leeton, and now you're a whistle stop, an old-fashioned whistle stop town. And so it's kind of fun, because you have three towns that want to work together, and all three towns have their own unique kind of spirit, their own unique look, their own unique restaurants. There are things that they can do. And I'll tell you this, one thing that we didn't plan on is, so Big Nance Creek goes through Cortland, and I started thinking about different things that we could do, and I called Linda and said, we have an opportunity to do a kayak canoe launch on Big Nance Creek, and we could float down to the Tennessee River from Cortland. And she immediately comes back and says, "Oh my gosh, we have one of our bridges being finished up. Is we have that space under the bridge. If we wanted to put a kayak or a canoe launch in." And suddenly you start throwing ideas out, and the ideas became real. And now you start working on funding. And what we're going to do is we're going to have a paddleway system, so people not only will be able to come into Cortland and walk or ride their bikes and shop, they're also going to be able to bring their kayaks and their canoes and float down Big Nance Creek, and hopefully grab a lunch or a breakfast from Miss Pearl's or another good restaurant in Cortland, and take it downstream and spend a little money in Cortland and spend the day on the Big Nance Creek.
Yes, that's what's so exciting to me, is we had been thinking about trying to come up with a way and the means to do a kayak or canoe launch there, and it just all of a sudden, John mentions it, and we'd already been talking about it, some individuals in Cortland, for about 2 or 3 years. And then after we got to talking about it, then it started coming about, more people getting interested in it and wanting to help. And so that will bring, a lot of people to Cortland from all over the different states and different counties. And it's something unique, because nobody else in Lawrence County has that at this time. We're not large enough right now for someone to come and basically spend the whole day in one place. So what we was thinking is, like, maybe somebody come to, you start your day off in Cortland, and then around lunchtime you'd be in Town Creek, and then in Leeton in the afternoon, and spend time there. Everybody's got their own unique ways and events, and plus, the characters of the town, like John was talking about, and we can promote from within ourselves and then outside, as far as promoting the other two towns that go along I think it's a 17-mile stretch.
Yep. Within
17 miles, you can experience 3 different parts of history, 3 different ideals, 3 different towns, their economic part of it, and just the looks of the towns and sales, is totally different but unique. So this is something that, that you can come in and spend a couple of days, where Leeton has already got some Airbnbs that people are starting to rent and stay booked up. I'm working on trying to get some Airbnbs in Cortland, and so I'm pretty sure that Mike Parker is trying to do that also in Town Creek, to have a way, because we're not big enough for a big hotel to come in, but with the Airbnbs the way they are now, and people starting to lease their homes out, then that's just ideal for a small town. And we're looking at all types of ideals that we can work together. And like I said, that we started out, with kind of like the tri-towns, TRY, and now, we are the trying towns, because we're all trying to do something new and with development of our economy and our areas. And, it just don't have to help just our part of the county. It can, branch off, like you said, to the rivers and to the mountains. And, it's just so much that people can do there. So,
and that's the part, I think, when you start looking at like the Jesse Owens Museum on one side, and then you have the Muscle Shoals thing on the other side, is you could bind all this together, and now Cortland becomes part of a bigger system and is a part of that system, and not at the end as a afterthought, but as the leader in the field, as someone who wanted this right from the get-go, and this is something that mattered. And so that's the part, I think, that for me is very gratifying. And there's one other part that I think we should talk about too, and that is early on we had public meetings in Cortland, and Linda was an absolute champion of the Singing River Trail. And I think one of the people that we have to thank in terms of just helping with Lawrence County and across the region is Representative Proncy Robertson was key to not only Cortland but also the entire county really kind of beginning to embrace the Singing River Trail within the context of the county. Tabitha Pace was another one that was very helpful early on. And so for us, it's, I always tell people I might be the only employee of the Singing River Trail, but we have 1,000 people who want to help and are stakeholders in this. And I think for me, Lawrence County is a perfect example of a county that has so much. There's so many things to do in this county, so many beautiful places, so many places to go visit, and for many people, they don't know it's here because it's Passover country as they go between Decatur and the Shoals. And so our goal is to slow them down and stop them in places like Cortland, and I think that's the exciting part. So, one of the things we talked about earlier, and I was hoping maybe Linda could maybe go on a little bit more about, is the mural that she had done this past year with Lockheed Martin.
Yes, we were very fortunate to, since I became mayor, this is my first term, and in 2020, November, I became the mayor of Cortland, and Lockheed reached out to me, and I've been very fortunate to have a good working relationship with them ever since. And one thing that they said they'd like to do was do something for the town of Cortland. So they hired an artist from Huntsville, Miss Julie Andrews, Jessie Andrews, and she came over, and the only thing that I asked them to do was to put have something incorporated with the old part of our history, with a new part of the Lockheed Martin. And so that's what they did. And so once they got that done, we have been promoting it. It's a very beautiful mural that we're very fortunate to have because of Lockheed. And also, we are on the town of Cortland is on several different trails, not just the Singing River Trail now, which we're very proud to be a part of. We're on the Merrill Trail. We're on the Hallelujah Trail for our churches. And also we're working on a banner for the park that ties in with the Trail of Tears. That because the railroad, when they were moving the Indians, they brought the Indians through Cortland on the railroad for the Trail of Tears. So we're going to try to get, we have several of the markers there in town, and we want to add that to it as part of our history. And talking about the Trail of Tears, John, would you like to tell us about how the Singing River Trail got its actual name?
Yeah, so we have a great story. A lot of nonprofits or a lot of projects tend to probably have some name that's just conjured up out of a committee of people. And for us, it was kind of an interesting process, is that the Singing River Trail is actually coming from an old story, oral tradition of a young Native American woman who lived here along the Tennessee, and the Tennessee means the river that sings. And she was part of the Trail of Tears and Indian removal, and she was shipped out to Oklahoma, and when she got there, she realized that the rivers there didn't sing like the rivers here did, and especially the Tennessee River. And so she spent the next couple of years actually working her way back to the Tennessee because she wanted to be part of or wanted to hear that river that sang, the Tennessee River. And so for us, it's a really special story because our logo is really the kind of the Native American representation of water, land, and the sky. And it's something that was created from those traditions. And so for us, it's a really proud story, but it also has a link that's very tangible and very kind of a wonderful link in the Florence area that, in fact, Linda just went to visit, so I'll let her talk about it. But many of you have probably heard about this, but you need to go see it. Tom's Wall.
Oh, yes. I've heard about it for years, and I mistakenly did not go in time for Mr. Tom to be able to tell his story. He has passed since then, and but we went, and I took my grandchildren, and it was just amazing. The wall, the width of it, there's no mortar in the wall, and it's just put together. It's probably about 5 foot wide, maybe 4 foot tall, and it just goes on and on. It has ceremonial benches, and it has places to where people can leave artifacts that they'd like to leave at the wall, and it's just something that everybody needs to see themselves. You just can't explain it. And the feeling you get there is just like you walked into a peaceful environment that it just puts you at ease. And so it was just amazing about how the wall just touched you. And it is just one thing that, something that it's a good day trip for people to go and see. So we want to thank Bishop Thomas Davis Jr. for having us here today and allowing us to talk to everybody and explain to them this event that we're trying to put together, the Singing River Trail, and just connecting the counties, and just to let everybody else know where we're at and that they can be a part of it too. We want you in Lawrence County. We want you following this trail, and thank you so much.
I appreciate it, and I want to thank Bishop Davis as well. If you have any more questions about the Singing River Trail, feel free to go to www.singingrivertrail.org. You can find us on Facebook and Instagram. You can also find the town of Cortland on Facebook. And a lot of times we share each other's posts while I'm looking at the menus for the restaurants. But if you have more questions, feel free to reach out, and we'd love to answer them.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, thank you for tuning in. I know you were blessed by Miss Linda Peebles and Mr. John Kvach, the director of the Singing River Trail. I hope you follow up on what you received. It can be a blessing to your town, to your family, to your community. And we believe that it's going to be a great event when it gets started. So we're giving you a heads up on it. This is the Encouragement Zone. Thank you for tuning in.
We hope you were blessed by this program, and it's our prayer you were encouraged. Join us again next on The Encouragement Zone with Bishop T. Davis Jr., where your dreams are revived. Be blessed and see you next time.